Letsile Tebogo, the 200-meter Olympic world champion, just had this to say about breaking Usain Bolt's 200-meter world record.
I don't want to put myself under that pressure of trying to break the world record, but I don't think it will take that long because it's about 10 meters away from me.
And I thought it was interesting how he said he's just 10 meters away from being able to break Usain Bolt's record, just because I don't usually think about it in terms of distance. I usually think about it in terms of time and being able to maximize the time. So I thought I'd take a look at his performance at the Olympics and be able to get a better understanding of what it is that he's saying and how close he really is to being able to break Usain Bolt's record. We're going at the 1919 record, not the 1930 Olympic world record. So what we're seeing here is when Letsile Tebogo passes, we can see that it's about 19.3 to me, and then he gets a 1945. So to me, we'll go and take a look at when it's at 19, which is, in my opinion, closer to 5 or 6 meters away, maybe at the most 8 meters away, because he wants to be able to essentially get anything under 1919. And really looking more into it, I thought that being able to see where he has the biggest area to improve would be great to make it so then we could have some more clarity moving forward. It's great that the Olympics are providing so much information for us to be able to take a look at what's going on within his sprinting. I was looking at like the World Championships from Noah Lyle when he ran the 19.3 and just wasn't nearly as much information. I actually have it up right here. This is all they give you, where this year in the Olympics, they break it down 10, 20. Every 10-meter split is broken down for you. I don't know how accurate it is, but we're going to use it. We're looking at Usain Bolt here when he ran the 1919, and when we look at the splits, so he ran 992 in the first 100, where we could see Letsile Tebogo ran 1012 in the first 100, and that's really the big difference, because then we could see with Usain Bolt, he ran 927 in that last 100, and then I did the math on Letsile Tebogo, and he ran 934 in his second 100, so pretty close to what would be the current Olympic record of 1930. You could see Usain Bolt ran a 932 here, and then a 998 in the first 100. And that's really what stands out, and everybody always wants to talk about how Usain Bolt didn't have a great start, but that's really where his strength is. Looking at Noah Lyles, when he ran the 1931, which is the current American record, he ran a 10:15 in the first 100, and he actually ran a 9:16 in the back half. So we actually ran a faster last 100. Now let's take a step a little bit even deeper into it and see what some of the splits end up being. And so we can see with Letsile Tebogo, 5:70 in that first 50, where Usain Bolt 5:60, so he's a 10th faster. And so I wanted to take a look at how much faster is that, and essentially it's averaging not too much faster. It's 22:55 in comparison to 22.1. So based off of that, it's like, okay, he's really not too far off. But to me, 0.2 of a second, as we know, is a big difference. If we were to just quickly show the difference between Noah Lyles in the 100-meter finishing in 9:79 and Oblique Seville finishing in 9:91, which is just a little bit over a 1/10 of a second slower, you can imagine how much slower 0.2 of a second is. And then even when you go in the speed calculator and go down to like a 50-meter time period, 4:32, which is closer to like 25.9 miles, where Letsile Tebogo ran 4:42. So now we're talking about 25.3. So about a half miles an hour faster on average over a 50-meter span, which is about 0.02 per 10-meter increment, where Letsile Tebogo was the fastest was at 0.87, which is 25.7 miles an hour. And then we would take that by 0.02, which is then 26.3. So about a half a mile an hour faster, but really getting into a much higher speed. And the reason I say that is just because you can see he's the fastest in this increment here. So this is the 50 to the 100. He gets the fastest 0.87. And if he was going to run a 10th slower, then for each 50-meter increment, that would mean he's running 200ths slower. So I would go from 0.87 to 0.85. You know, there's no way to be able to see exactly how much faster Usain Bolt was going in each 10-meter increment, which is, again, an average of running about a half mile an hour faster for an entirety of a 100-meter race. And so that's not an easy thing to be able to achieve, but that is something that I think is more achievable than the second half of the race. So the fact that Letsile Tebogo is 21 years old, and he is already in a really good place with running that 9:34 in the second half of the 100. So he's only about 0.07 hundredths off from being able to beat Usain Bolt. Puts him in a good place to be able to potentially get into a world record, but he has to make a big improvement within his start, within his acceleration. Again, we talk about Usain Bolt and how great he was with his top end speed, but really what he was able to do at a very high level, very underrated part of his running, was his start, was his acceleration based off of the numbers, 9:92, and even him running the second fastest 60 meter of all time, right? Being barely losing to Subing Chin. I think he ran a 6:29 is the fastest 60, where Usain Bolt ran like a 6:31 when he ran that 100 meter, I want to say. Just understanding how quick Usain Bolt was out of the blocks for how big he was is a big reason why he was able to beat some of those world records in the 100 meter as well as within the 200 meter. Obviously, again, running that 9:92, and that's with a curve, right? Because the 200 meter has that initial curve. So he ran 9:92 while having to turn, and then had that second half where he ran the 9:27. Again, this was something that was beat pretty handedly by Noah Lyles running 9:16, which means that Letsile Tebogo, only 21 years old, does have plenty of times. He mentions that in the video as well, that he predicts that he'll be able to do it closer to like when he's 24. But the big way he's going to have to do that is by improving his start. And I just wanted to be able to get a little bit more clarity around what he was saying within the distance. I think that the numbers help when it comes to what types of speed he has to get to. I like to look at it in terms of time instead of distance. And in my opinion, he was kind of off. You know, it's not 10 meters away. It's closer to like 7 or 6 meters away, but that's all happening so fast, right? We're looking at this and, you know, this time is happening so fast and these guys are covering so much ground. By the time they get to the end of these races, when we look at this, it's closer to 102.97. So just a half of a second is going to be about 5 meters. Theoretically, if you ran a 102 from 90 meters to 100 meters, then half of a second would be a 5 meter difference. And so, and that would be all you need. If you got half of a second faster, then that would be the difference between running 1946 to then being in the 18s, right? So it's really not that much distance away when you look at it from a number perspective, but it is a big ask to be able to achieve that. And a lot of that, again, is going to end up having to be within his acceleration, within his start, and being able to run that curve in a way that makes it so he can accelerate to a insane amount of miles per hour. Getting up into like the 26 mile an hour range is very impressive as he's turning. So Usain Bolt got up to 25.9, essentially 26 miles an hour while he is turning. Again, super impressive and very difficult to do. And I think a very underrated skill that you have to be able to actually achieve this. This is something that I almost think may be a more untouchable record than the 100 meter running the 9:58. I think that being able to beat 19:19 may be a bigger challenge. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. We'll have a couple other videos here that will also be breakdowns of Letsile Tebogo as well as Usain Bolt within the 200 meter. If you guys want to watch that, go and click those videos now. Like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.